Everyone loves a good war story, but what if the greatest one ever told was actually a lie? You've heard of the Trojan War, right? A kidnapped queen, a 10-year siege, gods playing favorites, and of course, a giant wooden horse hiding an army. It's epic, it's dramatic. It's basically ancient Greece's version of a Hollywood blockbuster. But here's the twist. What if none of it happened? What if it's all just a beautiful myth? Think about it. Would you risk thousands of lives over one woman? Okay, don't answer that. But seriously, did the Greeks really fight for 10 years just to burn down a city over Helen of Troy? Today, we're digging deep, literally, because archaeologists have spent centuries trying to figure out if the Trojan War was real or just a poetic fairy tale. So buckle up. We're going on a journey through ancient scrolls, buried cities, lying poets, and maybe, just maybe, the truth. Let's rewind the clock. Way back about 3,000 years ago. There's no Twitter, no news, no Netflix. If you wanted a good story, you sat around a fire. And someone like Homer would blow your mind. Homer wasn't just a poet, he was the poet. He gave us the Iliad, a massive epic filled with love, rage, betrayal, and really angry gods. And in that story, the Trojan War is center stage. It starts with a beauty contest. No, seriously. The goddess Eris, goddess of chaos, throws a golden apple into a divine party. It's labeled "to the fairest." And boom, catfight. Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite all want it. Paris, the prince of Troy, is picked to judge. Aphrodite bribes him with the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen. Problem is, she's already married to a king. So Paris takes her, and suddenly the Greeks are furious. 1,000 ships set sail for Troy, led by heroes like Achilles, Odysseus, Agamemnon. And so begins one of the bloodiest, most dramatic wars in all of ancient literature. But here's the thing. The Iliad doesn't actually show the fall of Troy. We never see the Trojan horse. We never see the city burn. The story ends before that, which makes you wonder, was Homer telling history, or just setting the stage for a legend others would finish? Okay, so let's pause for a second. Do you believe everything you hear in an epic poem? Especially one written 400 years after the supposed war? That's right. Homer didn't live during the Trojan War. He wasn't reporting live from the battlefield. He didn't even know anyone who did. By the time he was born, the war, if it even happened, was ancient history. Imagine someone today trying to write about the Crusades based only on rumors, myths, and oral storytelling, and turning it into a Netflix special. That's kind of what Homer did. And here's where things get messy. There are no other Greek records of the war from that time. No scrolls, no stone carvings, no receipts for 1,000 ships, nothing. Even the famous wooden horse? Never mentioned in the Iliad. That part comes from later writers who just kind of added it in. Bit by bit, the story got bigger, more dramatic, more godly, until eventually it became this perfect storm of history, myth, and legend. So what's left? A blind poet, a city with a mysterious name, and a war that might have existed, but maybe not for the reasons we think. What if this wasn't about love at all? What if the real reason was power? Trade routes? Greed? Let's be honest. Those things have started way more wars than a pretty face ever did. All right, fast forward to the 19th century. Enter Heinrich Schliemann, a rich German businessman, and a man completely obsessed with the Trojan War. Not just interested, obsessed. The guy read the Iliad like it was a treasure map. While most people thought it was just a myth, he believed Homer had left real clues, buried in verse. Now keep in mind, he wasn't an archaeologist. He was a merchant, a dreamer, and some would say a bit of a maniac. But he had money, and he had a mission. In 1871, he arrived at a dusty hill in modern-day Turkey, a place called Hizarlik. Locals had told stories about ancient ruins buried there, but no one had ever found anything certain. Schliemann started digging, and digging, and digging. And one day, he hit stone, walls, pottery, jewelry. And not just any jewelry, solid gold. He called it Priam's treasure, after the legendary king of Troy. To him, this wasn't just some ancient ruin. This was it. He had found Troy, and he wanted the whole world to know. He even took pictures of his wife wearing the jewelry. Yes, really. And sent them to newspapers across Europe. Instant fame. He was hailed as the man who uncovered a myth. But was he right? Well, not exactly. Because it turns out, what he found didn't quite match Homer's tale. At least not yet. Here's where things get wild. What Schliemann found at Hizarlik wasn't just one city, it was 9. 9 cities stacked on top of each other like a historical lasagna, each one built on the ashes of the last. Destroyed, rebuilt, destroyed again, over and over. We're talking about thousands of years of human drama layered into one hill. Fires, earthquakes, invasions. This place saw it all. And archaeologists gave them names: Troy 1, Troy 2, Troy 3, all the way up to Troy 9. Sounds like a Netflix series, right? Troy, the reboot. So which one is Homer's Troy? Good question. Schliemann thought he had found it in Troy 2. Why? Because that's where he found all the gold. Naturally. But there's a problem. Troy 2 existed around 2500 BC. A full 1,000 years before the Trojan War supposedly happened. Oops. Later archaeologists said, actually, it might be Troy, 6 or 7. Those layers show signs of battle, collapsed walls, burn marks, arrowheads, the kind of stuff you'd expect from a 10-year siege. Especially Troy, 7a, burned to the ground around 1200 BC, right on time. But even then, it's not conclusive. Was it a war? Was it an earthquake? A rebellion? The evidence is murky, like someone ripped out the last few pages of the book. So we have ruins, we have fire, we have hints of violence. But do we have the Trojan War? Still no smoking spear, I'm afraid. All right, let's talk about the big twist. The one part of the Trojan War that everyone remembers, the wooden horse. According to the myth, the Greeks pretended to give up. They left behind a massive wooden horse as a gift to the Trojans, then sailed away, hiding nearby. The Trojans, thinking they'd won, rolled the horse into the city. And that night, Greek soldiers climbed out and opened the gates from the inside. Troy burned. Game over. It's brilliant. It's cinematic. It's a little too perfect, isn't it? So here's the question. Did that actually happen? Is there any evidence? Well, no. There's no wooden horse in the archaeological record. No giant wheels, no planks, no leftover bolts. Nothing. And Homer doesn't even mention it in the Iliad. The horse story shows up in later works, like Virgil's Aeneid, written centuries later. So is it fake? Maybe. Or maybe it's just misunderstood. Some historians believe the horse wasn't a horse at all, but a metaphor, a siege engine, or a secret tunnel, or even an earthquake, because the god Poseidon, who was worshipped with the symbol of a horse, was also the god of earthquakes. Mind blown, right? What if the Trojan horse was never a physical object, but a poetic symbol for how the city fell? Something unexpected. Something that came from within. Because sometimes the greatest trick isn't brute force. It's making your enemy open the door themselves. So here we are, after all the digging, all the poetry, all the smoke and swords. One question still burns. Did the Trojan War really happen? We've got ruins. We've got fire damage. We've got a city that was clearly destroyed, possibly violently. But we don't have Achilles, or Paris, or Helen, or that famous horse. What we have is fragments, pieces of truth floating in a sea of myth. Maybe the war was real, just smaller, less glamorous, and without divine drama. Or maybe it was never about truth. Maybe the real purpose of the Trojan War was to create a story so powerful we'd still be talking about it 3,000 years later. And guess what? It worked. So what do you think? Was it real? Was it exaggerated? Or is the truth somewhere in between? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next time as we uncover the myths that shaped history. This is Epochlight.